to the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He said, He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. The Lord which keepeth thee.
becoming a fruitful Christian. Our key text is John chapter 15, 1 to 17. But I want us to read the key verse together. It's in the note, the sermon note. You should have a copy. You did not choose me, but I choose you and appointed you, that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask the Father in my name, He may give you. Amen. I'm sure we should be able to memorize this. It's not really. You did not choose me, but I choose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask the Father in my name, He may give you. But I want to go to the introduction. Maybe we'll just do the introduction today and we'll take some prayer. So, becoming a fruitful Christian. Becoming a fruitful Christian. So we are created for fruitfulness. That's it. So we are created for fruitfulness. We are created for fruitfulness. Let's look at Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. (26 to 28). Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the field, over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him, male and female. He created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Amen? Amen. So the primary assignment God gave to man after creating him in His image, after the Lord created us, He said we should be fruitful and multiply. So we are created for fruitfulness. He said we should fill the earth, subdue it, have dominion over the sea, over the birds of the air, over every living thing that moves on the earth. So we are to be fruitful and multiply, subdue the earth, to rule over it. So we have the mandate of fruitfulness as God's representative, and also we are to rule over everything God has created. Actually, when you think about everything else God created, He created them to multiply. Even the grass, the animals, all of them, they were to multiply. And so fruitfulness is a mandate for everything God created. If you look at Genesis chapter 9, even after the flood, God again passed that mandate to Noah as a representation of the whole creation in Genesis chapter 9. Genesis chapter 9, verses 1 to 3. So God blessed Noah and his son and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. So it's the same mandate that God gave to Adam after the creation. But even after the flood, and then God now repeated this mandate to Noah that it should be fruitful and multiply to feed the heart. Let's look at Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12. Now, when we were talking about the fruitfulness God commanded in Genesis, and also Genesis chapter 1, chapter 9, it's more of reproduction, procreation, to bring forth children. But when you go to Genesis chapter 12, there is more to fruitfulness. It's not only just to bring forth children. Because God has a plan. Are you with me? Yes. In Genesis chapter 12, let's read Genesis chapter 12 from 1 to 3. Now the Lord said to Abraham, go out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to the land I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse him who curses you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Now God is now talking about also the mandate of fruitfulness. God called Abraham that I want to make you something special. See, because amongst other things, the plan of God for the earth is men and women will worship him. But we failed him. And you know, in the Garden of Eden, when sin came into the world. And you know, when you look at generation of Noah, God wiped that generation because of sin. Noah was the only righteous one. And so God wanted his knowledge to be multiplied all over the world. So he called Abraham and said, look, I'm going to take you to a place where you've never been. I will make a covenant with you. And so I will make you to be fruitful. Fruitful in body. Because God told him he's going to give him a son. And through him, many will be born. There are millions. We saw that in our study of Genesis. That this promise to this man, you know, through him, the nation of Israel, they became millions. But more than that, God also has, you know, spiritual, or what we call spiritual fruitfulness in mind. Because God said, I'm going to give you a son, a seed. Through this seed, the whole family of the earth shall be blessed. Amen. And that seed is Christ. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Amen. And so when you look at the promise to Abraham, you have three promises of fruitfulness. Yeah. Abraham will be fruitful in terms of having children. He'll be fruitful financially. And also, through him, the knowledge of God will be known all over the world. Because Christ shall be born through him. So there are three areas of fruitfulness. To be fruitful in having children. Second area is to be fruitful financially. And third area is to be fruitful spiritually. So what is the first area of fruitfulness? Hello? Yes, so if you know you are trusting the Lord for the fruit of the womb, the Lord will visit you this year. Amen. You that are trusting the Lord to marry, God will remember you this year. Amen. You know, the second area is to be fruitful financially. Abraham was wealthy, amen? We're going to spend 1 month looking at financial fruitfulness. Because God is going to bless you this year. Amen. God will prosper the work of your hand. Amen. Everything you lay your hand on this year will prosper. Amen. And then thirdly, spiritual fruitfulness. So we'll be focusing on spiritual fruitfulness in this teaching. So God wants you to be fruitful spiritually. So the first thing I want us to understand in becoming a fruitful Christian is that God has created us for fruitfulness. Amen. You are created for fruitfulness. It's a mandate. So that's why God hates barrenness. God he hates it because we are created to be fruitful. Now, number two, you know, I mentioned Abraham. Abraham, the father of faith, you know, he was choosing for fruitfulness. So Israel, you know, Israel is a call from Abraham. You know, so Israel was choosing for fruitfulness. And this is why in the Old Testament, Israel was portrayed as a vine that was unfruitful. So you see that. So Israel was choosing for fruitfulness. You know, God chose Abraham to be fruitful. And so that nation was choosing to be fruitful. They were choosing to showcase God. That through them, you know, Gentiles, they will see the glory and light of the Lord. But unfortunately, Israel failed the Lord many times. That's why Israel was portrayed as a vine that was unfruitful in the Old Testament. Let's look at some scripture. Psalm 80, Psalm chapter 80, verses 8 to 16. You have brought a vine out of Egypt. Now God is using metaphor here to describe Israel. Now why is he using vine? Because vine is a special tree that is always fruitful. And Israel as a vine is supposed to be fruitful. You have brought a vine out of Egypt. You have cast out the nations and planted it. You prepare room for it and cause it to take deep root, and it filled the land. The hills were covered with his shadow, and the mighty cedars with his boughs. She sent out her boughs to the sea, and the branches to the river. Why have you broken her edges, so that all who pass by, they will pluck her fruit? They bore out of the woods uprooted, and the wild beasts of the field, they force it. So, what he's saying there is this. So, Israel is like a vine the Lord delivered or uprooted from Egypt. And God now took them to the land of Canaan. It was the Lord that planted them there as a vine. And Lord casted out their enemies. You know, God prepared room for them, and they were fruitful in that land. You know. But look at verse 12. Say, why have you broken down your edges, so that all who pass by, they will pluck her fruit? The bird, the wood uprooted, and the wild beasts of the field before it. Return, we beseech you, God of hosts. Look down from the heaven and see, and visit this vine, and the vineyard which your right hand has planted, and the branch that you made strong for yourself is born with fire, is cut down. The reason why God abandoned Israel to the enemy was because of unfruitfulness. They were not fruitful. You know, so God expected fruit of righteousness, holiness, but there was none. And so God cut them down. God gave them to their enemies. Let's look at Isaiah. Isaiah explains this, Isaiah chapter 5. Now let me sing to my well-beloved, a song of my well-beloved regarding his vineyard. My well-beloved has a vineyard on a very fruitful hill, and dug it up, and cleared out his stones, and planted it with the choicest wine. He built tower in the midst, and also made winepress in it. So he expected it to bring forth grapes, to bring forth good grapes, but he brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, please, between me and my vineyard. What more could I have done to my vineyard that I have not done to it? Why then, when I expected it to bring forth good grapes, it didn't bring forth wild grapes? And now, please let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away its hedge, and it shall be burned, and break down its wall, it shall be trampled down. I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned or dug, but there shall come up briars and thorns. And I will also command the cloud that they rain no rain on it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is house of Israel, and the men of Judah are his pleasant plant. And he looked for justice, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold they cry for help. It's a very straightforward song. It's called Song of the Vineyard. Yeah, you know, Israel is a vineyard. God planted them. And you know, here God describes, so God planted them in a good land, a land that is fertile. So when you plant something in a fertile land, it should be productive. Is that not true? Yes. Also, God, in addition to planting Israel in a very good land, also watered the land. Not only that he watered it, he took out every encumbrances that would not allow the land to be fruitful. And so he took out the stone, and also he fenced it so that enemies will not come in. But they disappointed him. Instead of having a good vine, they were bringing, you know, white grapes, unhittable, unedible. And so, because of that, God abandoned them. God will not abandon us. Amen? Amen. Fruitfulness is a mandate. When we are not fruitful, you know, God can walk away. You know, from our teaching in our seminar, you see, when we give our best to God, God is obliged to give his best to us. But when we withhold our best from God, God also can withhold his best. So number one, looking at becoming a fruitful Christian. So we are created for fruitfulness. Number two, Israel, as God was choosing for fruitfulness. And that's why God uses the image of vine, you know, to describe Israel. Because vine is to be productive, to be fruitful. But Israel is unfruitful. And that's why, you know, God for now has abandoned Israel. It's for a moment, you know, and we will see this in a minute. That's why now, you know, the mercy of God has come to us, Gentiles. You know, because God is not seeing the fruit of righteousness he expected from Israel. For his grace has come upon us, Gentiles. And that's where we are now saved for fruitfulness. We are saved for fruitfulness. Tell your neighbor that you are saved for fruitfulness.
You are saved for fruitfulness.
You are saved to bear fruit.
You are saved to bear fruit.
So that's what God is. That's why the Lord Jesus said, you did not choose me, but I choose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and your fruit should remain. That whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. See, your answered prayer is a function of fruitfulness. Answered prayer is condition of fruitfulness. When you are fruitful, God will answer you. When you are fruitful. You know. So let's look at Romans. And let me show you this Romans chapter 11. It's a great scripture on this metaphor again of the vineyard. Romans chapter 11 from verse 11. Now in Romans chapter 11, Apostle Paul was discussing the Israel rejection. God for now has rejected Israel, and he has now, you know, choosing the Gentile. Romans chapter 11 from verse 11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Hebrews chapter 11 from verse, Romans chapter 11 from verse 11. I say then, they stumbled that they should fall. Certainly not. but through their fall to provoke them to jealousy, salvation has come to Gentiles. Hey, are you getting that? You have to read Romans chapter 11. It's very, very interesting. So, because, see, it's talking about abandonment of the nation of Israel. Because of what? Because they were not fruitful. And that's why for a moment, God has abandoned them. Now, if their fall is riches for the world, and their failure riches for the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? For I speak to you, Gentiles, inasmuch as I'm an apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify my ministry. Amen. If by any means I may provoke to jealousy those who are my flesh, and save some of them. For if they are being cast away, is a reconciling of the world, that with their acceptance, but the life from the dead. For if the first fruit is holy, the lump is also holy. If the root is holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches were broken off, and you being white olive were grafted in among them, and with them became a partaker of the root and fatness of the olive. Do not boast against the branches. But if you do boast, remember that you do not support the root, but the root supports you. Hallelujah. You will then say, branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Where said, because of unbelief they were broken off. And you stand by faith, do not be haughty or fear. But if God did not spare the natural branches, He may not spare you either. Therefore, consider the goodness and severity of God on those who fear. Severity, but towards you goodness, if you continue in His goodness. Otherwise, you also will be cut off. And they also, if they do continue in unbelief, will be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. So, if you are caught out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, were grafted contrary to nature into a cultivated olive tree, how much more with these who are natural branches, were grafted into their own olive tree? You know, it's using this metaphor. The only way to understand this text is to remember what we are talking about the vine. Israel is the vine God has planted to be fruitful. But because of their disobedience, you've seen in Isaiah, because of their disobedience, you know, they were not bearing fruit, they were barren. Or rather, they were bearing, you know, wrong fruit. And so God abandoned. And so Apostle Paul is now, you know, expanding this image in Romans chapter 11. The same image of a vine. Now, we are the strange vine. We are not the natural one. What God did by saving us in Christ is He took us and grafted us to the main stem. Now we are told that, you know, where they plant this vine will produce fruit for many years. But when they grow old and they can't produce again, you could take branches from the young one and graft it on the old tree. Hey, are you getting this? So they do it agriculturally. What will happen is, although a stem will bring life into the stem, the old tree, and then they will be able to produce again. So Israel is the main branch. Now, they were cut off because of unbelief. The branches are cut off. When we look at the parable of the vine, you understand better. They were cut off, and we Gentiles are now grafted. We are now grafted into the tree. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Amen. And that's where now He's giving us the oracle of God. We now have access to the deep things of God. Hallelujah. We are grateful for the grace of God. Amen. Amen. But He's warning there that we should watch it. If the original branches were cut off, because they were not fruitful. Now we that are fallen branches granted to the stem, if we are unfaithful, God will cut us off again. Are you getting it? It's talking about, the danger of being barren. The danger of being barren. That's why we are saved for fruitfulness. We are saved for fruitfulness. When we are not bearing fruit, it's an aberration. As a Christian, you are saved for fruitfulness. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. What I would do is, before we look at the parable of the vine, if you go to, I just want to run through briefly the kind of fruit God is expecting from us. If you go to C, we'll look at the parable of vine. Go to C. So there are 10 fruits that God expects from us as His children. We will develop this. I'll just run through it. Now, the first one is the fruit of the flesh. Israel, it's not that they were not producing any fruit, but they were producing wrong grapes. Grapes. Just imagine you're a farmer and you plant a vineyard. What do we normally plant in Africa? Like orange. Let's talk about orange. All of us know orange. And see, you are taking care of your orange in your yard, and then at the time of harvest, you go to your orange, and they are not sweet. It's supposed to be sweet orange. I bought some sweet orange from one pie shop yesterday. So, if you buy sweet orange and it's not sweet, what do you do? God will not choke us, amen. So that's why every Christian will have a fruit. Either it's a fruit of the flesh, so demonstrating carnality, living in sin, and although you are born again, but people always see you in carnal. We will look at this in Galatians. The Bible describes the fruit of the flesh. Let's look at it briefly. Fruit of the flesh. Galatians chapter. It's a fruit. Are you with me? Because the Bible says by their fruits you will know them. Galatians chapter 5, 16 to. I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambition, dissension, heresies, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelries, and the like, of which I tell you before, just as I told you in time past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. So essentially, when you look at this list, they characterize somebody who's not born again. Are you with me? But the strange thing is this: after our conversion, many of us will see exhibit this. But when you see some Christian, you wonder whether they are born again. That's why, the only way to deal with the fruit of the flesh is to grow in grace. To grow in grace. That's the only way. I tell you what, everybody look at me. All of us, we will exhibit this at a point in our life. That's why the Bible says we must mortify the deed of the flesh. Otherwise, if you don't mortify, it's to kill it. If you don't deal with it, your life will just be characterized by the fruit of the flesh. And you will not have any testimony as a Christian. Then the second fruit is the fruit of the Spirit. Amen? Amen. Let's read that. You know, you see this fruit of the Spirit. I love this one. I like to have all of this. Amen? Amen. Praise the Lord. I want God to deal with, jealousy in my life, to deal with anger, to deal with everything negative. Amen. You know, just look at the list of the fruit of the Spirit. Look at that Galatians. Are you still there? Yes. 22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love. Say love. Love. Joy. Joy. Peace. Peace. Long-suffering. Long-suffering. Kindness. Kindness. Goodness. Goodness. Faithfulness. Faithfulness. Gentleness. Gentleness. Self-control. Self-control. Against such there is no law. Yes. And those who are in Christ have crucified the flesh with his passion and desire. Either we exhibit the fruit of the flesh or the fruit of the Spirit. Now, all of us that are born again, Holy Ghost dwell in us. Amen. And we have the potential to exhibit the fruit of the Spirit. But we must allow the Holy Ghost to rule in our lives. Until Holy Ghost rules in one's life, you cannot manifest the fruit of the Spirit. The flesh is very stubborn. You know. That's why when you see the word the Bible uses, they are strong to mortify, is to deal with. You know. The Apostle Paul said, I'm bringing my body under subjection. We must let the body die. Body wants to have its way. Then the third fruit, we are looking at the list of the fruit, we'll develop them. So the first is fruit of the flesh. The second is fruit of the Spirit. Number 3, spiritual growth. This is growth in Christ likeness. You know, spiritual growth. Peter, you know, we did a long series on dealing with carnality. Is that not true? The only way to overcome the flesh is to grow spiritually. And so when you grow spiritually, you are fruitful. Number 4, we must live a righteous life. Righteous behavior. What is righteous behavior? To live a holy life. Holy life. Holy life. Then number 5, life of worship. Praise, honoring God is a fruit. Hebrew 13. It talks about, our lives, giving thanks to the Lord, blessing Him day and night. Number 6, sacrificial love. When you love, we are like God when we love. As we said, we should love our enemies, and that's not easy. But through the power of Holy Spirit, we can do it. When we crucify the flesh. The love God wants us to love is sacrificial love. And number 7, we are fruitful when we bring others to Christ. When we bring people to the church. That's been fruitful. Praise the Lord. We are fruitful when we use our gift and talent for God. When you sing to the Lord, you are fruitful. Whatever you do in the house of God, for the glory of God. Giving generously to the work of God. Your giving is a fruit. And I thank God for many of you that are committed to giving. The Lord will remember your offering this year. Amen. The heavens shall be opened upon you. Amen. This year will be a year of abundance for you all. You will eat in plenty this year. You will be satisfied. God will rain blessing over your family, over your business, over everything you lay your hand on. In the name of Jesus Christ. And then number 10, praying for others is a token of fruitfulness. But that is, people don't see you when you are praying for others, but God sees you. And it's one of the greatest ways you can show love. People you are praying for will not even know, but God sees it and God recognizes that fruit. Praise the Lord. I want to stop there. Let's stand up this hour. Let's run through this memory verse again together. Memory verse. So you are a fruitful vine. Amen? Amen. You are a fruitful vine. Amen. Amen. So through you, many will come to the knowledge of Christ. Amen. How many of you will really say that yourself, that this year I will bring many souls to Christ? Let's read that memory verse together. John 15, chapter 16. You did not choose me. Can we read together? You did not choose me, but I choose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, and that whatever you ask the Father in my name, He may give you. Amen. God has been so good to us. When you think about the mystery of our election, it's mind-boggling. God abandoned the main vine, but He grafted us in by His grace. Amen. Now He's giving us all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Christ. Oh, what a privilege! Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was once lost, but now I am found. Hallelujah. Go and thank God for your salvation. Father, I want to bless you, Lord. Thank you for my salvation, Lord. I am grateful for the privilege of knowing you. I am grateful for the privilege of belonging to you. I am the white grape and I'm now engrafted to you. I am grateful that now I am now connected to you in Christ. I am grateful that I drive and derive, Lord, nutrient, love, mercy, grace from you. I am grateful, Lord. I'm grateful that my sins are forgiven. I lift your name on high. I worship you, Lord. Hallelujah. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' name we worship. You that you have project this month and you are trusting the Lord, you know that God will see that thing. Let me pray with you quickly. I trust in the Lord that that project, your coming out is a point of contact. God is going to go ahead of you. And declare God's favor over you. His favor will do it in the name of Jesus Christ. This year there will be no failure. There will be no failure in the name of Jesus Christ. God will bring that finance. I declare open heaven over you in the name of Jesus. God will bring finance. He will bring finance. Everything you need, the Lord will bring it. He will supply everything you need in the name of Jesus. Father, I lift up all your children standing before you. Lord, they are coming out. Is a token of their faith in you. And I pray the Lord that desire, that thing that they are trusting you for you to do this month, I pray the Lord you will do it in the name of Jesus. Fulfill the desire of your children in the name of Jesus. Let your joy be full in the name of Jesus. Make a way where there seems to be no way. Let your favor be over your children in the name of Jesus.
I will lift up mine eyes to the hills. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He said, He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. The Lord which keepeth